Here on Treaty 7 territory, nestled in the Rocky Mountains with the mighty Bow River at an altitude of 1,309 meters. Born from coal dust in 1884 and ever-changing, this is Canmore, and we are Canmorites, and this is the Canmorite podcast. Let's go. Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the Canmorite podcast, episode 4, with me, Jeff Ma. I've got one of my favorite people on the podcast this week is my dear friend, fellow Councillor Wade Graham. Wade, how does the world find you right now?
Dude, it's been a long time since we've done one of these.
I know, it's kind of like a bit of a blast. I almost feel like we're forbidden from communicating in this format, so it's kind of refreshing.
Totally.
One of the things that I've always really appreciated about you, and something I've really admired, that when there's stuff that has to get done, you actually get it done. There's a lot of people that, say what they're going to do, but not a lot of people do what they say. And I think one of the big pieces was, I think there was a real lack of a potential forum in the Canmore area at this election. I know some other communities, Sundre, Banff, etc., but there's a big gaping hole for Canmore without a forum. So tell us what you did.
Yeah, there have been actually, I think, 10 forums in the riding. So, as a riding, I think there's been a lot of discussion, which is fantastic. That is great. However, in Canmore, there wasn't an organization or a community group that was stepping up to kind of have one for our community. So I kind of called around and I was like, are you guys doing one? Or are you doing one?
Right.
And as a local politician, I really hesitated to want to step into that realm, honestly.
Yep.
But it wasn't going to happen without somebody stepping up. So yeah, I did take a little initiative and put one together on about a week's notice, and wrangling all the cats to put a forum together is an interesting task. There's a lot of balls in the air, a lot of moving parts to that one.
Okay.
And but anyways, we did put it together, and we had it yesterday. We had about 220 people show up to Can Golf.
Yeah, packed house. What I hear.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, packed room. So it was pretty awesome. I was really happy with the event.
Okay, so the candidates that showed up, like who all made it there?
Yeah, so we had. I'll go in alphabetical order. Vicky Bayford from the People's Party of Canada was there. Michael Fark from the Liberal Party of Canada was there. Abby Somna from the NDP was there. And William Stevenson from the Conservative Party was there.
Okay, so we got a full crew of all the voting options, and everyone is able to make it out.
Yeah, we were missing one candidate, Dale Heath from the Christian Alliance.
Okay.
Pardon me if I got that one wrong.
Right, no worries. Well, 4 out of 5, that ain't bad. And especially, I think the three main hitters for sure, which would be the Conservatives, the Liberals, and the NDP. Getting them in the same room during this busy time is a pretty darn big deal. So, in your mind, what are some highlights of how the forum went?
Well, we kind of had 2 sections. We had a sponsor section, so I grabbed 6 community groups, kind of a breadth of the local community organizations around here, from Biosphere, Bow Valley Engage, Downtown BIA, TCK, Arts Place, and the Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
So they all submitted one question that was kind of their burning question for their audience, and we gave those questions to the candidates a couple days beforehand.
Right.
And then we also had a second section where we polled everybody that was coming through the door as to what their burning theme was.
Okay.
So we had, I think, 12 different themes. I won't go through them all, but everybody got 2 votes on what their top 2 were.
Right.
And so from that, we were able to take those themes and have some questions, some pre-made questions that we didn't give the candidates beforehand, and fire those at them to see how they do think on their feet, right? So kind of a little bit of a balance of the well thought out responses to, thinking on your feet. And both of those skills are important as a politician, as you and I both know.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just go down like the three main candidates. So say William Stevenson with the Conservatives. Of the six forum questions, where do you think he really excelled in?
Well, William's an accountant. He's, a tax accountant. So his specialty is definitely tax and taxation.
Right.
Um, and he's got thoughts on what that looks like for Canadians and for the riding. So yeah, that they, that's his strong part for sure.
Right. And could you elaborate a bit on maybe some of what his like views are on taxation and how that works? Like I know there's a conservative platform, but he's going to express it in his own way as well for his own values.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to go putting words into people's mouth here,
Okay.
Councillor Ma. Um, yeah, go look at the forum, and you can see
Okay.
where they come up on certain tax issues. I think it's pretty obvious as to how each party falls into this category. But go look. I think it's important to see that.
Well, I'll make sure to put a link because you guys did record it. So there's a YouTube video. So I'll put that
There
in
is, yep.
so folks can check on that. But
Yep.
just for fairness of questions. So let's bounce over to Michael Farr from the Liberals. Where do you think he like really shone?
Yeah, Michael has um, he worked for the town of Canmore as manager of municipal server or municipal infrastructure for a long time.
Mhm.
He did the Jasper wildfire. He's done um, Doctors Without Borders. So I think he really understands how government works.
Mm,
How to get things done within a bureaucratic environment. Um, and yeah, I think you and I have learned over the last while, learning how that game is played is that learning curve is pretty steep at the beginning, right? And
100%.
yeah, for sure. So, Michael really has that dialed. He understands how government works and how to get things done. So, that's definitely going to be his strength and his uh his his big checkmate for sure.
For sure. And then bouncing around to say the candidate who I think has probably been campaigning the longest,
Mhm.
Soma from NDP. What's dear to her heart or what really like connected for her with the questions?
Yeah, Avni's background is really food security, right?
Okay.
She's got a huge history in that genre, and
Hmm.
she really connects that back to how food is works within community and how food works within climate change and how food security is a national issue. So that's where she really tends to shine for sure.
Okay, so that's where she resonates.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's kind of like the bit initial like questions. Anything else you want to feel about, say, like the first questions that came from the various groups that were in the Bow Valley?
Well, I think that again, we went to really a wide breadth of topics and issues that matter to the Bow Valley. They may not be national issues, but they're Bow Valley issues, and they're probably a lot of Yellowhead issues, right?
Hmm.
Um, so you got to see which candidates really understood the local landscape um, to the best of their ability, and you know this is a strange riding. It's huge, right? Like you've
And it's
got
just redrawn as well too.
yeah, it's brand new. It's a goes from Jasper down to Canmore, out to the eastern slopes, and out past that Sundries area. So you've got oil and gas, you've got ranch land, you've got the foothills, you've got mountain communities, you've got federal parks.
Mhm.
So for anybody to really understand all of those jurisdictions,
Yep.
that's a really that's a big task for sure. So my hat's off to all the candidates. I was really impressed.
Hmm.
They all put an effort in to do their research, right? Some of
Hmm.
them obviously had better understandings of the local issues more than others, certainly.
Okay.
But they all put effort into trying to find out what really mattered to Canberra, and I really appreciated that.
Okay. And then bouncing towards like the second component of questions, during the forum, where it was more like driven by what was the audience's really real big desire. Like, what were the questions that kind of bubbled to the top that were, or what sort of themes behind those questions that came forth to the candidates? Because that's really like where it's representing, what Canmore's kind of got a bit of a priority on.
Yeah, certainly. So the top three there were housing,
Yep.
climate change,
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
affordability. Yeah, and climate change hasn't really been a topic in the federal you know discussion that we've been having, right? It's kind of been all about how to drive the economy and how to you know how to build oil pipelines and that sort of stuff.
hmm
So it was heartening to me to see that Canmore hadn't forgotten about the climate change and what that means to them. So kudos.
Well, yeah, that's super interesting because I think that generally, like the narrative in the general populace, if I kind of look at it, a national thing, is
Hmm.
definitely, you said, is all leaning more towards, how to deal with the guy down south of the border, how do we respond to
Hmm.
tariffs, how do we get back on track, how do we like negotiate this new order?
Which
So
is super important,
yeah,
right?
totally.
Hmm.
And then how about the housing piece? Because I think that definitely aligns across the nation. What was the housing question or perspectives?
Yeah, it was around what would you do to make housing more affordable?
Right.
And with a focus on, offsite levies and taxes. Um,
Oh,
yeah, I know. Um, so, offsite levies are an interesting issue here in Canmore right now. As you and I know, we're in the middle of a court battle with the developers over, our offsite levies and how they're administered.
yep,
And they're a big chunk of change. Somebody has to pay for that infrastructure.
yep,
And so there is a bunch of conversation from, the various parties about, subsidization or getting municipalities to lower those fees, but somebody has to pay those costs. We have $100 million water treatment plant coming down there, or sorry, water sewage plant
yep.
coming down the pipe here, and how do you pay for that? So yeah, the question was kind of formulated around how government or how the federal government would come along to assist in that, or how they wouldn't, and
Okay.
what that
Yeah,
looked like.
yeah, that's super interesting because I think it's something that I didn't really understand until being in almost, like third, after being this rookie counselor going through this first term, was just like infrastructure is a mega deal. And this whole
Yeah,
and when you and I go to say conferences, we talk to fellow counselors and other committees, if there's one thing that's huge, is there is a looming infrastructure crisis. And
the infrastructure deficit is uh, huge, right?
yeah,
Like that is a huge thing.
yeah, like stuff's getting old, stuff's falling apart. You just think back to say, water supply in Calgary last year was like seriously compromised.
Yeah.
6 weeks for a
Mhm.
city of 1 point something million. And so I find it really interesting that there's a bit of a lens towards offsite levies, who should pay, who's like how's it going to happen? But yeah, I feel we need money for that sort of stuff. That stuff is there's so much stuff that shelf life is starting to run out and then it's got to
Yeah.
get okay.
We
And
haven't been paying our condo fees for a long time as a
yeah,
country.
cash call.
So, it's you got to pay that piper sooner or later, or
Yeah.
things start to get ugly for sure.
And then what was the last kind of big theme amongst the questions from the general audience?
Well, the last one was around strengthening democracy. And
Oh,
I uh, Mayor Sean Crowser did the moderation for this,
okay.
and Sean did just a fantastic job. I'm really impressed with Sean's ability to be nonpartisan. You and I know that he's got to wrangle the seven of us that have very different views on
For
how things
sure.
should be done sometimes, right? Like there's a spectrum there,
Mhm.
and we've been able as a council to find a way to be super respectful with each other and be effective.
Mhm.
So Sean phrased the question around uh, essentially, what of the other party's platform ideas that you don't have would you like your party to have?
What a
Right?
great question. What would you
Yeah,
cherry
yeah,
pick from your competitor?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And it made all of the candidates a little bit uncomfortable. Um, Like what across the aisle is a good idea, whether it's your color or not your color. What's a good idea,
Uh-huh.
and can you get behind that good idea? And I think you and I have really got to learn,
Hmm.
how to sell an idea to the other councillors, how to get those 4 votes, right, to get it across the line.
Hmm.
And you got to work hard at that. And I have something that I'm super proud of our council for doing.
Hmm.
But you don't see it as much at the provincial or
Yeah,
the
party
or the
politics level.
yeah, party politics is an ugly game sometimes.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I really appreciated, all of them thinking across party platforms and saying, I like that idea, right? And I wish we had that one. So, it was a cool little piece for sure.
And so, as you look at this sort of thing, like we're trying to keep this conversation like nonpartisan. And so
Mhm.
when you were watching all the candidates, like what was it that you were looking for? Was it like competency, like oration skills, broad knowledge? Like, I was curious, you as an observer and the forum organizer, what sort of traits were you looking for that would formulate your decision on who to vote for?
I really, in Canada, we don't vote for our prime minister, right? We vote at the local level. We vote for our local candidate. And
Mhm.
I think we forget that a lot.
Right.
So, I wanted to go in there and forget my bias for who
Yep.
I think is a good leader.
Mhm.
And I wanted to see who was a good representative for me here in the constituency.
Okay.
And it, irregardless of who I thought, their party was or who their leader was.
Mhm.
And for me, that became pretty starkly evident. I won't share, but
For
I
sure.
think everybody has perspectives that are different.
Mhm.
But I really wanted, um, I want a candidate that's a good breadth of knowledge across a large
Mhm.
depth of topics.
Right.
Again, it's a huge riding. You have to have that.
Mhm.
Somebody who understands how the game works and can hit the ground running, right?
Mhm.
And I think, everybody says, don't be a one-trick pony and run for politics. I think you and I got labeled a little bit as, being one-trick ponies when we were originally running,
Oh, like one
which,
issue that we're going to like focus.
yeah, there
Yeah,
was one issue. You and I were the
one issue.
TSMV guys, and
Protest
you know,
candidates.
yeah, yeah. Nothing could have been further from the truth.
No.
But I think there are some candidates that had more depth than others,
Okay. Like
and
a
so,
broader like interest range of what, like it's just
mhm,
not this one thing. I think this, and this. I've got some
yeah,
thoughts upon, and I want to see us move the needle on that. Okay. So
100%.
that'll probably show up as people, check out the YouTube video. And then so any other like closing comments about the forum in your mind?
Well, you know, um, a few people came up to me since the forum, and they made some comments that I really appreciated.
Mhm.
One, that it was a safe space and that it was a respectful space. It was a
Right.
place for people to share ideas.
Mhm.
And I think Sean did a really great job of, just setting the tone as to how the afternoon was going to unfold.
Right.
And we see politics happen in a way that's just nasty,
Oh,
right?
100%. I was up at the province and legislature earlier this term, and it was just like, wow.
Yeah, it's almost it's embarrassing, isn't it? Like, it's
Yeah.
embarrassing to watch that
Mhm.
unfold. And there were candidates that um, I didn't agree with a single policy that they put forward,
Right.
that I still thought I would have that person over for dinner and enjoy their company,
Oh, well, that
right?
says a lot. Right.
Yeah, yeah, I thought so too. And a couple people came to me and said, those people really surprised me. I had maybe some bias or some preconceived notions as to what they would be like,
Mhm.
and maybe those weren't fulfilled the way I thought they would be. So, keep an open mind when you go to
Yeah.
these things. And I think I really appreciate. I think everybody came from a good place, right? Like they cared about this country. They
Mhm.
cared about what they're doing. They didn't put their names forward for silly reasons. They, like I said, I might not agree with any of their perspective or policy,
Mhm.
but I'll never take away the fact that I think that they were doing it for unselfish reasons.
Okay. Well, that
I
that's
appreciate that.
like yeah, like that's awesome to hear because like I'm sure there are like people running across this country that would not be emblematic of those sort of traits and qualities.
100%. Yeah, yeah. We've seen that. You see that in every election. You see it here locally,
Yeah,
municipally, provincially. But you see kind of candidates that are doing it for a lot of the wrong reasons.
yeah, totally. Okay,
I think
well,
those are the easy ones to cross off the ballot list really fast for me.
awesome. Well, I would totally encourage people to like, keep doing some more research. If they want to check out the podcast, I do have like a full-length interview with Avni from the NDP. I also have a
Yeah, right
full-length
on.
with Michael from the Liberals.
Hmm.
I got reached out twice to William Stevenson from the Conservatives. They said they would get on. I'm sure campaigning is a pretty busy thing, but I hope they do
Hmm.
back out. And like, I would love to have him do a bit of a longer form interview too, because I think, like you said, sometimes these longer things, as opposed to like these canned, shorter pieces, you get a better sense of who they are, like between the lines and what they're like as a person, which is pretty
Yeah,
rad.
for sure,
Yeah. And
for sure.
so yeah,
Well, I hope that happens.
yeah, like I really hope so too. It sounds like advanced voting, like this election seems to be an election of consequence and people are taking it seriously.
Yeah,
Last time I heard, and I saw some pictures for like even like Canmore's the various Canmore Instagram accounts, it looks like the advanced voting has been pretty darn busy. So,
yeah. I heard 1,000 people voted in Canmore on opening day.
oh my gosh, amazing. Yeah.
It took me. I've heard various things. It personally, it took me about 10 minutes to walk in and vote. I've
Mhm.
heard, some people saying 45, 50 minutes.
Right.
I think that's a small price to pay, an investment in the future of this country.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot on the line this time around. So I'm hoping people make the time to go and vote. And I think they are.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, because just to remind all the listeners, the actual final election day is going to be like on Monday, April 28th. So
Mhm.
if you can't make the advanced polls, definitely make sure you get informed and vote at that point too. And
Mhm.
yeah, and so Wade, just want to say thank you so much for all the work you did. Thank Mayor Krauser for hosting the event as well too. And we gotta have you on again.
Yeah, no, I miss doing these with you, bud. And it's been too long. And I think, you get caught up in the business of everything that we have to deal with. And it's hard to want to do these long form things sometimes, but I think they're important. And I think it's a great way to kind of share more messages and more nuance than what you get in a Facebook post sometimes.
100%. Okay, well, thanks so much for all that you do. Folks at home, I will have the link to the forum video so you can also catch that. And everyone stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Take care.
Take care, Mako.